Excuse me, dear members, we are going to start the function soon. The function will be started in around 2 to 3 minutes. Can we just hurry up? Dear members, we are going to start the program soon. Kindly be seated. After a long time, today TMA is conducting a guest lecture program physically, and it's a live streaming also. We are streaming the same online in YouTube. Today, after honoring our chief guest, Shri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, who is a Padma Shri Recipient, we will be having an address by him on the topic promoting school education through joyful reading in scriptless language communities. After the same, we have a guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, CIO TVS Supply Chain Solutions, delivering a talk on supply chain management. Now we will be having a Q&A session after each session. Members are encouraged to make use of that WhatsApp link that has been previously posted for the posting your queries. Now we are moving on to the program. Let me invite the dignitaries on today's. First of all, may I call upon Engineer Francis George, Honorary Secretary TMA, on to the days. Now let me invite CAGR Job Vice President TMA on to the days. He shall accompany. Let's invite our guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan. He is on the way. And now let me invite on to the days the chief guest of the day, Padma Shri Recipient Shri Satyanarayana Mundayoor. Now I request all the members to kindly raise for a silent prayer. Now let me invite CAGR Job Vice President TMA for the welcome speech and the presidential address.
Hello. So, respected chief guest, Mr. Satyanarayana Mundayoor, Secretary Engineer Francis George, Past President, Immediate Past President Dr. Xavier, Past President M.G. Gopalakrishnan sir, and our senior artist and caricaturist, our beloved Jayaraj Warrior, passionately calling it as Jayatan, and other members, students. A warm good evening to everybody. So it is so glad that after 2 years of virtual meetings and a real separation, we are conducting our physical monthly guest lecture. We should be so glad. There are plus and minuses for this virtual meetings, but even the warmth of physical interaction and the vibe which we are getting from the physical interaction is different. So it's after a long time. So we should be very glad and hope that this Omicron will not stand between the virtual meeting and the physical meeting, and hope that it would not become a hurdle for us. So I am deputing our president, who is president and senior vice president, who is away from the town due to some pressing engagements. So I am directed to chair, to preside over the function. So today we have two distinguished personalities, and those personalities are, so we have taken a little bit of pain to invite these personalities. And our chief guest, Satyanarayana Mundayoor, is an educationist and a social activist. We know that education is divine. So when we do teaching and imparting education, there is pure positivity in that, there is transmission of energy in that. So when you do that, when you are voluntarily doing that to those who are really in need of that divinity is more. So assume a person who is from Trichur, sacrificing the comfort of this home station and moving far east to a remote state, Arunachal Pradesh, and created and started doing education and created a culture there, culture of education and reading, and himself emerged as an institution, and at last he got the civilian award Padma Shri in 2020. So he is with us for sharing his experience and knowledge. So let us welcome Satyanarayana Mundayoor to this August function. Our guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, has not reached, he's on the way, I think. He will be talking on, he is a technocrat, he is from Trichur Engineering College, he's a technocrat, and he'll be talking us on the technology and the supply chain management and his thoughts regarding that. Supply chain management is, as far as myself is concerned, it is a tough subject. And when you inculcate technology into supply chain management, it is all the more difficult. So I hope that he'll be giving a very thoughtful speech on supply chain management and the technology relating to that. So he's on the way. He'll be reaching soon. So in his absence here, let me welcome Mr. Boby Mohan, CIO TVA Supply Chain Solutions. And I welcome our past president, immediate past president Xavier sir, Gopalakrishnan sir, and due to some difficulties, other past presidents have not come, and our members, and especially Jayatan, accepting our invitation. He is very close to TMA and all of us, and he's a very busy person, and in spite of his busy schedule, he has found some time. I would request Jayatan to sit for the whole time, and I don't know whether he would be agreeing for that. So anyway, however, on behalf of TMA, let me extend a very warm welcome to Sri Jayaraj Varya. I welcome the students all who have come out here. And having completed the welcome address, let me talk about little bit of TMA activities. And TMA activities, so far we have completed in the mainstream front. We have completed, I think, six or seven webinars, and our Let's Chat session, our innovative program Let's Chat session has completed. We have completed 2 sessions on that, and these 2 sessions are on tourism, and so many ideas have emerged, and we have shortlisted 2 ideas. Actually 2 ideas from first session and 2 ideas from second session, and we are working on that. And our mentoring process, we are collaborating with District Industries Committee, and we have registered there, and 3 organizations. It is a mentoring and supporting to the stressed industry. So we have a panel of resources, and 3 institutions have registered that, and we are in the process. And an idea mooted by our President, Vision Trichur 2040, what we can do positively. So what would be the shape of Trichur economically and socially in 2040? So this project, our Senior Vice President, Engineer Paul Thomas, has agreed to lead that, and Trichur, that is in the process. And our forthcoming programs, Mr. Vijay Kurian, MD of CL, has agreed to come in the next month. The date is not finalized, so he will be coming possibly in January, and that would be, I think, that would be next webinar. In fact, we have arranged a webinar on December 8th, and due to some traveling issues and all that, we are forced to postpone that. And that may happen during December. And however, in January, we expect that there would be a session by Mr. Vijay Kurian, Managing Director of CL. And in the Students Chapter activity front, with the help of our energetic Students Chapter Coordinator, CMA Madhu, and the team, we have signed MOU with 14 colleges, 14 B schools, engineering colleges, and other colleges. We have signed MOU. So this is a great achievement, and we are planned, according to Madhu, we are planning to sign 6 more in the next week. So I'll tell you what is MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with these colleges. We'll be signing an agreement wherein the TMA would agree to do the mentoring process, to help them to support in entrepreneurial functions, and to do programs to enhance the employability of the students. So these things are included in the MOU, and TMA is all set to support the students to scale up greater heights. So that is what regarding the TMA Students Chapter activities. And also we have created, the students activity team has created a resource panel, and 22 persons have volunteered to take classes, to take workshops, to support the students for that. Thanks a lot for the members who are initiated and have volunteered for the program. So 22 people in the resource persons. And next program is our prestigious B-Lane program. And TMA used to give award to, I would say, specially abled students who have come up in their life so successfully. So we have formed a committee headed by Sri Anandaraman TR and Colonel Pradap and also Ajit, and they have worked together and they have identified a person, and that will be awarded. This B-Lane award will be awarded in the next monthly guest lecture meeting. So these are all the brief about Trichyur, the activities of Trichyur management activities. And sir, for your information, Trichyur Management Association is one of the vibrant local management association among all LMAs under All India Management Association. So it's a habit that we have getting awards every year, recognitions and awards every year. And once again, welcoming you all. We wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Now, let me call upon CMA Madhu AP, Student Chapter Coordinator and TMA MC member, to introduce the Chief Guest.
Respected President of the function today, our Vice President CHO job, Chief Guest of the day, Padma Shri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, Guest of Honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, Honorable Secretary, Engineer Francis George, immediate past President Professor V.M. Xavier, our past President Engineer Gopalakrishnan, other honorable members and other invitees, our dear Jarajadan. I will straight away go into my duty today. Sri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, born in a small village, Arunachal near Shanur, son of AMC Narayanan Nambutri and Arya Andarjanam. At his studies and finishing that with a gold medalist, with a gold medal in journalism. He went to Mumbai as a revenue officer, as an officer in income tax department. So his passion was in teaching and education. So he resigned, quit the job, joined Vivekananda Mission Trust, and went to Arunachal Pradesh and started his passion towards activities of his passion towards education. They started libraries in and around Arunachal Pradesh. Almost more than 13 libraries was there under the leadership of Padma Shri Satyanarayana Mundayoor. And his movement was Lohit Youth Library Movement, with a slogan, spreading the joy of reading to the reading deprived. So actively involved in all parts of Arunachal Pradesh, especially in the student front, educational, and as a social activist. So it is my proud privilege to introduce Padma Shri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, also related to me, my wife's first cousin. Okay. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank Thank you, sir. Now, next on the agenda, we are honoring Sri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, our chief guest with a Pannada. Now, let me request CAG Job Vice President TMA to do the same, and also I do request past President of TMA, Dr. V.M. Xavier, and Engineer M.R. Gopalakrishnan to join them also, please. And I also invite Sri Jairaj Warrior onto the stage for his esteemed presence. Now I request our chief guest, Sri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, to address the audience. The audience watching on YouTube should click on the link which will be mentioned in the description box. The link is to join the WhatsApp group where you can post their questions which is asked to the speakers. Please do note that you should mention your name first and then the question.
Somebody will be operating this one. Honorable Vice President of TMA, the chairperson of today's meeting, esteemed members, the chairman and the executive members, the past and present, the number of guests who have come here, the members, the student members, as well as those who are attending the program online. A very warm, respectful salutations to all of you. It's a great pleasure and honor for us, someone from Arunachal, to come and talk about our state and our people and the challenges the state is facing. Of course, it's not only our thing, it's a whole nation has been going through this. So we especially very warmly extend our hearty thanks to the TMA members as well as all those who have gathered and who are attending this program. Well, coming to the topic of today, promoting school education in communities which are having scriptless languages. Now, this is not exactly confined to Arunachal. In fact, when the moment we formed states with a major language, this problem had come up. But somehow, for many reasons, in many other states, this issue was not really highlighted. For some historical reasons and geographical strategic reasons, in the Northeast, the issue of the communities' languages became a major point, and it has also created often tensions in the past, and because of such reasons the issue got much more highlighted in the northeastern region. But basically, if we understand, when we look at carefully, almost all the languages in all states in India have some communities who are going through the same dilemmas, same problems. Just 2 days back, I was meeting Professor K.P. Mohanan, the Secretary of the Kerala Sahitya Academy. He was mentioning about some small communities in Wayanad area who have a very different language but they are not having a script, and they are forced to, or they are using Malayalam script, and then they were telling that we don't have literature recorded in our languages. That's what they had told Professor Mohan sir. So this problem is there, but anyway, let me try to focus why it is so important for the people of Northeast, and how any intervention can be done to mitigate at least partly the problem of education, which they have to prosecute in a different language. Next. Next. So as you can see, Arunachal is a very vast state, 84,000 square kilometer area, but with a population hardly around 15-16 lakhs, and 26 major tribes, and each of them have got languages which are mutually unintelligible, and there are sub-tribes and sub-languages, and most of them are mutually unintelligible. So the problem becomes much more, and historically, Assamese has been the medium of the lingua franca, and then later on with the government of India taking over Arunachal from the British and calling it the NIFA, and then later on forming it as a union territory. First it was a district administered as part of Assam and the Home Ministry, and then later on a union territory, and then later on it became a state in 1987. So from 1971 the problem of education got highlighted. Of course, before that there was a small time in 1960s, early 1950, when the government of India's tribal policy was being headed by a very eminent linguist and anthropologist, Dr. Verrier Elwin. Verrier Elwin was very close friend of Nehru, and he understood the problem which could come up in the communities. And there was a small, humble attempt in those days, 50s and early till 60s, mid-60s, to introduce textbook in mother tongue in each of those tribal languages. I have seen some of the textbooks. But somehow the problem of education involves a third agency, the teacher. And these teachers have to be, obviously had to come from an outside environment, like Assam or even from other places. Obviously they can't learn so many languages. So the whole thing collapsed after 1960s, or towards the late part of 60s. The whole experiment was abandoned, and they started with Hindi medium, and then later on it was when there was educational consciousness coming in the communities, and Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Meghalaya, everyone opting for English. There was also demand for English education, English medium education. That's how Arunachal government formally accepted English as a medium of instruction, and it continues. Yes, next. So this problem is being so complex. We have confined ourselves to a small region. So area-wise, it's quite big, but it's a small part of Arunachal, the eastern Arunachal. We have been working only in the eastern Arunachal, mainly because we felt that you need to consistently follow up an area if you want to make any change or intervention successful. Next. Yeah. So from 1947, the problems have been as such the same what we have been discussing. Plus, when you need a school to come up, you also need the infrastructure, the lighting, then the qualified teachers, then absence of reading. But these are all problems in remote area. So government took a smaller, a shortcut. It's a wise decision, I would say, from 1977 to 71 to 2000 or so. They decided to have centralized residential schools. All the government schools were designed as residential schools, and the students and the teachers have to stay in the same campus. They were sharing their time, they were sharing their energy, they were sharing their interest. Of course, those days communication was very bad. In many sense, it turned out to be good because the children had a lot of time with the teachers. And that way the adult time, which is so important, was contributing so much. We'll come to that later. And then the teachers not only lived and taught in the classroom, they taught them many things more. They grew vegetables, they grew garden, they played. In fact, in entire Arunachal, volleyball is one of the most popular games played even by the most remotest villager. That's because of this culture. The village people, the teachers and children form one common community in such an environment. This went on up to 2000 when the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan came out. Please, next. Well, with Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, government found that it was very expensive to maintain residential schools with support, and obviously the classes have to be upgraded. Population is increasing. Then there was a big challenge, and the central government decided that no more funding. Of course, funding is there. It's not that funding is not there, but since states like Arunachal are totally dependent on central funds, it was not practically possible to set up and run so many residential schools. So under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the primary and middle schools were all supposed to be community based and non-residential. And government also had a right reason saying that you can't keep on spoon feeding people. You need the parents to be, after a period of say 20-30 years of education, you need the parents to be accountable for the children's welfare, which was a fair enough thing. So anyway, what happened was that with the result, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was launched very well, but there also needs a preparation, readiness before launching a program. Unfortunately, in states like Arunachal or in remote areas, this problem came up. Other places it would have worked very well. But in remote areas, you need to build up a school, you need to build up the facilities, you need to build up an environment before you simply say that you won't have a hostel. So this problem was there, and when the rapid expansion of schools, the problem of management came, the problem of qualified teachers came, then the problem of guiding the teachers, providing support, the infrastructural as well as the managerial support. All this thing became very, very complicated, and with the result, the worst to suffer were the students. Since they have to learn everything in English, it's the fourth language. They have their Arunachal tribal languages, each community, which may not have been widely used as the time went, but still they have their mother tongue. Then they have Assamese in the border area of Assam, Hindi in other areas, Nepali, because a lot of Nepali people live within the home and nearby, they depend on each other. So Nepali is widely spoken. And after everything else, English comes, and in a day scholar school, you hardly have 2-3 hours of exposure to English. And that to English, very often it's taught in Hindi, through using Hindi. Very well, using a second language, bilingual approach is not a bad thing. But if we cannot substitute, if we cannot support and supplement the learning process, then it becomes a big challenge. And this is what happened as we saw the situation changed after 2000. Then we felt that it's not just to blame anybody's system. We can keep on doing that. Nothing can be solved by that. Why not we try to do something? Please, next. So that is how we decided that we must start reading campaigns. This was the very idea. A reading campaign is an external intervention. It's supported by volunteers. It is supported with the goodwill of the administration. It's a movement which is to create interest in the community, in the teachers, in the children, that something else must happen. And that's how we started. A couple of volunteers came together. We had also some very good support of some administrative office, IAS officers. And that's how we started doing a lot of programs, book exhibitions, small book exhibitions. And we had reading campaigns, book exhibitions. The young people and the teachers have some exposure to printed literature. That's how we started with, right in 1998. Please, next. To make it, we had also other activities like storytelling, then gatherings. So in the process, by 2007, there was an environment by which we felt that a library, small library, can come up. And this, it was not our choice. The help came from an agency called the Association of Writers and Illustrators for Children from Delhi, supported by an American organization called Om Prakash Foundation, which gave us a very handsome gift of books. Thanks to the then Education Minister, Mr. Chownamen, and who is also our present Deputy Chief Minister, and a very enlightened and very far-seeing IAS officer, Prashant Lokhande, who is now the Commissioner Planning and Finance. The first library was started in Teju, and then the moment we saw that thing, we said this is not going to solve the problem unless these books are distributed over a large area and managed by interested volunteers, small communities, small representatives, NGOs. We are not going to make any change in the reading environment. So that is what we looked around, appealed to people, interested people, officers, teachers, NGOs, friends, and a network of 13 little libraries started. Of course, the headquarters library is quite a big one. We have around 7,000, 8,000 books. And interestingly, you can see the first picture is the Commissioner, Mr. Prashant Lokhande. He visited our library after 14 years of inauguration. He was going through the visitors book where he had signed he's put his name in 2007. So there are people who have been very, very supportive to us. So the movement started with the thing. Fortunately, the Border Roads organization also came forward, and they are managing one library in their campus. So it becomes easier for us. Next, please. So realizing this, that setting up library is not a solution. There is a big gap in such communities between the book and the reader. There is some linkage required. Something is missing. So this can be linked only by volunteers or mentors or any book lover. So for that we need to have some activities. That's how we started with. Initially we started training up young students, and then seeing their response. Out of them, not everyone, but some of them started responding, and then we built up a team of volunteers, young people. Then those days they were in schools. Now many of them, our senior most team, have all reached the postgraduate level. So this is something over the 14 years what we have seen. These are all the activities which we have been conducting in different places. But the main thing is, it is the volunteers who make a change. Please, next. The idea is, as it says, that we have to do something to create an interest in reading, and by the best way is peer group learning. A young student, a young brother or sister speaking the same language can communicate much better than a teacher or someone, however talented he is, speaking another language. So we used number of methods. We used storytelling in mother tongue. We did skits in mother tongue. We translated biographies, many great stories. Like, for example, the George Washington Carver, the black American scientist. This was done in Mishmi language in the thing, and it was sent to the George Washington Carver institution in America. They were so pleased. Said someone so far away has learned and talked about their hero. So this is how we try to create the thing, and this has gone further. Next. So this has gone further, and we have also been trying in these days, the Corona days, we have also to try to translate from literature other languages. For example, we have some volunteers who are interested in Malayalam. So we had recently got a poem, Sugata Kumari's poem Urutai Nadam, translated into Mishmi, and they have used it in sung it in the All India Radio. When this corona was there, we could not do live programs, so we have been using All India Radio. So this is the thing. And there is one more problem with all these institutions. A school closes for 2 months, libraries are closed for 2 months, books are all just dumped up. We said this is meaningless. Why not allow the children who are the beneficiaries to take hold of the books and take it on and use it in their own villages. This is what we did by vacation mini libraries. We allowed the children the freedom to select the books what they like and run their own little libraries in their own little hamlets. And after the end of the 2 months, sometime mostly in around June 5, we used to have a World Environment Day celebration. We used to invite anybody who is summoned. And very fortunately, sometimes during, some of the areas are a lot of wildlife sanctuaries are there. Kamlang Wildlife Sanctuary is one near the Wakro area, where we have 10 mini libraries, vacation libraries run by volunteers, and very renowned people like Sanjay Sondhi, the great butterfly scientist, and even from our own Kerala, Balakrishnan Valappal, they have visited there and addressed these students and the community. See, outside, so much of knowledge comes in when it is done outside a school setup. And this is what we have been trying to do. The peer group learning, it is the volunteers who take the lead. It can't be done by me. Yes, next. So this is another point which I was telling. Sharing of adult time is so important when we have to learn a different language. We all know that. But in schools, it doesn't happen, especially in such communities. So we were very fortunate that large number of people came forward as volunteer mentors to do programs. The first gentleman is a theatre expert, theatre educator from Bangalore, P.N. Umesh. And we have we have Balakrishnan Valappal, then Mr. Sanjay Sondhi, then a lady, a teacher educator, Nabanita Deshmukh from Pondicherry, has been coming for the last 10 years. Every year she comes and does some program. And then we have our own from Kerala, extreme right, Dr. K. Haridasan, a very renowned forest expert. And we also have even an IAS officer conducting a session. There's Madam Ayushi Sudan, a Kashmiri IAS officer conducting session for students. So this is what happens. And whenever we invite mentors or guests to do this work, our message is, it's like what under the Swadhyaya Guru used to tell, the 3 T's. They used to say, time, tiffin and ticket should be the person who contributes. If you want to do social service, you can't expect these 3. You have to contribute yourself, the time, tiffin and ticket. But since places like Arunachal are very far away, we can't expect them to take care of the tiffin part. So we provide the tiffin part. Whenever somebody comes, we try to arrange their stay and accommodation. But the entire coming and their spending time, traveling, everything has to be borne by the well-wishers. We also have some friends who have been coming very regularly. Okay, yes, just. Public celebrations are one way to, create interest in the readers. You have a number of occasions to hold. The country has so many programs. We used to connect up somehow with the books, and then this was a very good thing. Yes, next. Yes, just have a look at the learning outcome over the last 14, or rather I'll say 20 years of work, but specifically last 14 years the library movement is working, youth library movement. At the community level, we have made sure people believe that it's nobody's responsibility. In an institution, everybody expects that the institution will do that. We said no, it's not our business. Library, we are running with the library movement. We are not running the library movement. If you want to run a library in your village, you have to come forward. Otherwise, you take your own way. So in our network, the responsibility is owned by the community members, volunteers, members, NGOs. But anyway, it's not a centralized, there's no centralized control. So this is a thing. Then adult time, of course, I think this thing. Yes, I've covered. At the individual level, just 1 second. Individual level, these students, the volunteers have benefited extremely. First of all, they have developed self-confidence, they have got motivation. In a library, all are readers. We have built up that. There is no hierarchy. Everybody can interact freely. That builds up the confidence of the young people. Then they develop other qualities like their reading is much wider. They get confidence to read different genres of books. So all this has been the part of the fallout, what we have seen. And they feel that we must do something for our own people, which is so difficult these days in such remote areas. We expect government will solve my problem. He said, no. If you want English your language to improve, your study to improve, you must contribute something for this. Of course, this is still a dream for us because we still need lots of volunteers from the community. It's coming forth, but it's a slow. Anyway, these things are very slow to take place. Yes. Now, this is just to have a look at our senior most volunteers who have been with us for the last 12, 13 years. And they are really very convinced and they are very confident they will do something and they don't depend on me. That's the most beautiful thing. They are very confident. And we have in this audience 2 of our friends, library friends, who have visited Arunachal and met our library volunteers. Mr. Rajesh is here. He's a very good friend of a number of library volunteers. So with this, we hope that these people will make a change in the community. I am here only to do my little bit of it, that they also know that. I am with them, but it's not that I have to run the show. It is they who run the show. I am running with the show. Okay. So these are few of the references we can see. And yes, next. So thank you very much. It's very, very nice. I've got an opportunity to present the challenges of a community in such scriptless communities, and how it is important it is for us to do this. Adult time, providing adult time, mentoring, and teamwork and peer group learning. These are some of the most important things in such age. If reading has to improve, education has to improve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, we will be having a short interaction with our chief guest. We are having an open floor also. Now, the audience watching on YouTube should click on the link which should be mentioned in the description box. The link is to join the WhatsApp group where you can post the questions which will be directed to the speaker. Now, please do note that you should mention your name first and then the question. Now, we are having an open floor also.
Trishur is one of the best talent associations in India. Trishur is one of the best management associations in India. We have a lot of resourceful persons available here. If you don't mind, some of our members will come as volunteers there. You need to provide only tiffin. They are ready to spend their time, their travel, they will take care. And I'm sure most of us, not most of us, some of us will come. How many days you want? 1 week or 2 weeks time?
It can be worked out. Okay. And thank you so much for that offer. Definitely this can be discussed and definitely most welcome. We need volunteers in the country.
Yes. So we'll be coming.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, as part of this library movement, are you able to bring scripts for the scriptless languages?
Yes, sir. You have asked a very important question. We have been trying to encourage the communities to start bringing out books. In one of the major communities which we are working with, the Mishmi, already 2 books have come out. In fact, in 2015, 15, the first book, a children's book, a children's book called Humble My Sai was brought out by Tulika Books. And again, Tulika Books came forward in 2009, and in 5 Arunachal languages, Gandhiji's biography was brought out. That initiative the library movement has taken, though we couldn't do the translation ourselves, but some of our members, some of our well-wishers, some of our colleagues who are part of the library movement, they have done the translation in 5 Arunachal languages and in Bodo language in Assam. Adi, Apatani, Nishi, Nokte, and Nishi. Sorry. This Mishmi. 5 languages it was translated. So this is continuing. Fortunately, now government has taken it up as a serious issue, and government itself is trying to bring out. And in the Idu Mishmi society, again thanks to the local society, the Idu Mishmi Cultural and Literary Society, they have taken lead, and with the support of Pratham, they have brought out e-books with script, of course Roman, but in their own Idu Mishmi language. Hopefully other languages should pick it up. Thank you.
Otherwise these languages may disappear or die away.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. That fear is there in all the communities, but it's only now the action has started taking. Hopefully it will catch up.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Naveen. I'm come from Sagati Institute of Management Studies, Kodagara. My question is, how did you convince these volunteers to come forward for this initiative?
Well, it is not a question of convincing them. You know, when you interact with young people, then obviously you come close to some people, and they feel that there is some sort of, you know, special benefit they would get mentally, emotionally. So a teacher or a friend or library volunteer, librarian has to be much more than a person, a bookkeeper. You can have a storekeeper to manage the library. You don't need a qualified librarian. But even if there is no qualified librarian, any book lover can turn to be something that. Now, it is only to create that feeling. I have started working on that. And fortunately, it is my good fortune, I would say, the children who started responding, they started responding very well. And since then, they understood the value of reading. Especially adolescent students are always, if the right guidance is given, they can go a long way. But as a volunteer, it is good to have some skills. Say, like storytelling, poem recitation, guiding them how to do what, and also encouraging them to write themselves their own story. We have, in spite of so much of difficulty in written language is always difficult, but our volunteers have been able to write more than 40 stories and get them published in different children's magazines. I think it's a very wonderful response from their side. Otherwise it would not have been possible by my pushing them up.
Sir, first of all, allow me to appreciate and congratulate you on your work and on your receipt of this publicity. Because that's an earned one, that's an earned one. My second small question, even though you provide only the tiffin, there are lots of funds required for that. How do you really mobilize, and what is the source of funds? Are there options if somebody wants to really donate or give, not donate is the wrong word, to be participating in that process? What is the way? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. In fact, any program requires some support from the community, from friends, and the administration, especially in such areas, remote areas. You need a real hand-holding. So inputs are received and accepted from various sources in various forms. Some may be provided in physical sense, some may be providing in administrative support, some may be providing in financial support. We have large number of well-wishers, ordinary well-wishers, lot of book lovers who contribute in so many ways. So, and some of them, like I said about Madam Nabanita Deshmukh, she comes every year. She and her husband come every year at their expense. They come and stay with different. Of course, staying and accommodation is not much of a problem in places like Arunachal. If we know that if find the right source, you may stay in a hotel. It will be expensive. But there are other ways. You stay in a school, where a school program can be done in a school. So there are ways. There are guest houses of the local people. So I mean, it is not as expensive as we believe. But what is required is the goodwill to come forward with an expertise. So that is the most important. That's why I said volunteering, mentoring is the most important intervention in such areas. Of course, we will be very happily, gratefully welcome contribution financially also, because any work, you need that. I don't say it's not important, but we don't spend too much of time running after that. We know there are programs which can be done with very little amount, provided the community supports or the administration supports. For example, very simple thing, enlightened deputy commissioner can provide accommodation and fooding in their circuit house to any volunteer who is committed to do some good work. We have been getting that good fortune. So it is not that difficult, I feel.
Sir, we have a query, online query by Colonel Pratap. Now, as mentioned by you, instead of choosing a language from the whistle of their languages, they chose English as the common language. This would have benefited them immensely. May I have your comments?
Well, the choice of a medium of instruction is definitely not left to the community. Slightly you can say that 1970 when the students demanded English as a medium, but it's nothing. It's a total policy decision, either the central government or sometimes the state government. In the real stakeholder, the student or the teacher or the community, the parents, they have no role in this. They have no voice at all. They are not even consulted. So it has been historically decided that for the unification of the entire Northeast, security, national interest, and they felt that English and Hindi must be promoted, and so it went. So the people or anybody else has no voice in this.
So once the subject is finished about your library, I saw your photo accepting the Padma Shri Award for the President of India, and I see you now. Is it something to do with the Arunachal culture and your dress or something?
Yeah, this is a typical local Arunachali dress. Since I am going to talk about such an issue concerning Arunachal, so I felt that it is appropriate to wear this. Otherwise, it's not necessary. It's not a compulsory thing. It's not a mandatory thing to wear a dress. But you know, we feel happy that I feel happy that I am representing Arunachal and trying to share with you, and you have been good enough to inquire about Arunachal and its Arunachal people and the library movement. Only that happiness I am showing by wearing this. Thank you.
We are winding up the Q&A session. Before winding up, I have a query from the MC desk itself. Taking the tough decision of quitting a government job as a revenue officer and to foray into a life that is not just about money, sir, what promoted you?
This question has been asked in umpteen number of times. So it's just, you see, you sometimes you feel like doing what you want to do. It's all that. That's all. I felt that I must do something else. I was interested in learning. I was interested in reading. But reading has definitely influenced this decision. You want to read and you want to think wide. So that is what we expect the young people. By reading, they must learn to think wide.
So that's the end of the Q&A session. Now we are shortly moving into the next session. Now our guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, has joined us. We do welcome him. we are moving on to the second session. Before the same, let me call upon Engineer Francis George, Honorary Secretary, to introduce the guest of honor.
Thank you, Ajit. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be introducing Boby Mohan to the audience. Bobby and I were classmates. We did our mechanical engineering together in Government Engineering College. We graduated in the year 1994. Since then, both of us got into IT. I think Bobby did a stint in marketing for a couple of years. He dabbled with that, and then he got into IT. He worked with Ramco Systems, and even when he was working, whenever we used to have discussions or with our classmates, he was always thinking about starting up something on his own. That entrepreneurial streak was always there in him. He was very good with dealing with people and getting along with people and influencing people mostly. I should mention here that he was the University Union Councillor while we were in the college. He contested the elections and he won easily by a landslide. So that spark was there right from the college days. After working a few years in Ramco, he started his own analytics company. That's where his expertise was. That was in 2009. Then he ran it for a few years. He sold it for a very handsome profit, I guess, a figure he hasn't told us. That was in 2014. And then he took a break for a few months, trying to figure out what to do. He ventured into farming for a while. That's what many IT people who retire, that's what they turn into, farming. And very soon he realized it's not for him. And then he got back into IT. He joined Randstad, which is a human recruitment and resource management consultant, as CIO of the company. He was also consulting, IT strategy consultant, digital consultant parallelly. And later he took up the job that he's in now. Unfortunately, the policy of the company doesn't allow him to disclose his company name in public functions. Prior permission needs to be taken. That's how many MNCs are. So anyway, he's the CIO of one of the leading supply chain management companies in India. So without further ado, let's listen to what he has to say. On the personal front, he is married to Lakshmi. She's a doctor. She was in fact our classmate for a few months before she jumped ship and joined MBBS course. They are blessed with a son. He's doing his course in symbiosis, Lavasa, right? Lavasa. That's it about him. So over to Bobby.
I request our guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, CEO of TVS Supply Chain Solutions, to address the audience. And the members sitting online can just post their queries in the WhatsApp group. It will be taken up.
Thank you, Francis. That was quite nice of you. When I'm back in my hometown and I'm speaking to a lot of respected, educated people about something that I've learned across in life, and probably this is when the penny drops and say, probably you've arrived in life. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's a privilege to be here. And before that, I think this is one of the few humbling moments in life when I meet somebody who's done such a lot of wonderful stuff for people in the country. And well, it's just a privilege that I'm in the same room with you, sir. May God bless you and Godspeed to you. Okay, and probably I think we'll quickly jump into whatever we have to speak through. Yeah, I can change the slide. Thanks. Well, of course, supply chain as a topic is fairly dry. That's what Francis told me when I said we will discuss supply chain. It's quite dry. It used to be dry, at least. But to be very honest, in 2021, maybe you go back a couple of years, 2019 onwards, the reason why we have survived the entire COVID pandemic period is because globally our supply chains have been robust and our supply chains have been modern. And we'll look at why that's happening, and also we'll look at where probably this is all going, where are we heading towards from a supply standpoint, and then probably have a bit of a discussion towards the end. If that's fine, quickly jump. Like I said, let's just go back a few months, maybe a year or so. And from where I sit and look at the world, which back then was in my room in a corner because we could not really go out, I saw a lot of disruptive forces that was hitting us from many sides. We were in a phase where the world said that China is my manufacturing. Everything is China. I will make in China, I will ship it across, and I will sell it wherever I am sitting. And China was happy, the world was happy, the prices were low, the rates were less, labor was cheap, and all sorts of things were happening. The quality was bad initially, but then the quality caught up from China and so on. That was the way we were all going, and knowing unknowingly, it was a nice slippery slope the world was sitting in. And then, of course, the virus came and hit us, and we really didn't know where it hit and what happened to us, but we could not step out of our homes. Really speaking, life went on. We got food, we got medicines, we got entertainment, we could interact with people we care about, and most of us managed to work also. So that was a massive change that happened. If the whole pandemic had hit us, let's say 15 years ago, it would have been a very different scenario, in my opinion at least. We would have really struggled. It would not have been so easy as it was. So that, to me, is when the world shifted to a new normal. The new normal is not post-COVID and mask and all that. I'm not even going there. I'm saying the world is different now. Why is the world different? We had the Suez Canal, which is the artery of global commerce, blocked with no traffic possible for a week. Prices went up, life went along. The world was different. If you look at the graph on the top, the right side, global economies crashed. Service sector took a big nosedive. The freight costs, if you look at the bottom, are at their highest. Ocean freight is at their highest now. In spite of that, even though tomatoes went up to 100 rupees a kilo or whatever it is, right, like a few weeks ago or whatever it is, life still goes on for us. We are able to manage well, we are able to do stuff. All sorts of people are able to live well, with government support, without government support, leaving that aside. So exactly what happened? Why did this change? When we take a step back and try to look at what happened, you need to also take a look at, sitting in India, what is changing in India? What has changed in India? We said incredible India a few years ago. It was a marketing slogan. Today I think India is actually incredible. Why is India incredible? It's not because of the fact that you have unicorns coming out of nowhere and raising such a lot of money in the stock market, making people millionaires. That of course is happening. But if you look at the way India is today, India is where probably if you stay inside or you do not want to go out and physically do anything, your life can still go along. Your banking goes on, your education goes on, your shopping goes on, your food goes on, your home repairs will happen sitting where I am. Everything happens in India. And that to me is the biggest story why Zomato probably raised so much of money, or a retired individual who started a cosmetic company online today is such a big business person. Probably put together, these guys have more net worth than probably the Tatas. So maybe only Ambani will be a little ahead of them, or even Adani. So what is behind all of this? What is behind every one of these companies? The fact that they run the modern supply chain. And what is the modern supply chain? Back in the day when I started working in Francis and I came out of college, and I joined a manufacturing company. Of course, I was in sales and marketing there, but it was a manufacturing company. Back then, the supply chain was about buying something, taking it to a factory, taking the goods and putting it into a place for it to sell. That was the dry, boring supply chain. I used to handle stores and warehousing, and that's pretty much how it all went. These guys are doing very different stuff. If you look at all the 5 logos on top, the one on left gets you food from a restaurant. The one at the bottom gets you apparel. The one on the right, wants to be everything financially, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he wants to do, but I pretty much do everything on his app today, including my stocks, including my banking, and a lot of other things. And the one in the middle is probably, for me, is a solid success story. She had a full career running a fund, being an investment banker. Then she came out and started cosmetics. Why did she start cosmetics? Because she thought that was a passion. And today it's such a big brand, and they're talking about probably some acquisitions or whatnot, and they're created a big niche in India where you could have cosmetics, good cosmetics, which people will trust and buy online. And what is the secret sauce with all of these people? The secret sauce is what we will look in the next slide. So the whole question I want you to just take a step back and think is, why are these guys different? Why is India today very different than what the India I would have seen when I stepped out of college and when I went around the country? So that's what we would try to go through. A lot of these are things that I have put together. You may have differences of opinion. Let's have a debate if that's what it is, and that's what makes things interesting. So I'll take you back to, a day in my life in 2020, in April. So that's pretty much my daily clock. These guys made my life easy, and I really enjoyed the first 10-12 months of sitting at home, to be honest. I didn't miss my office. It was nice because I could wake up from my bed, I could reach out to my mobile and order breakfast. And the breakfast would come to me, and I could order whatever I wanted. I wanted dosa today, I wanted a toast tomorrow. They'll come, either Swiggy or Zomato, of course. One of those would deliver these things for me. And those days, when I needed to do something, when I needed a plumber, let's say for example, or probably I need to get something changed with the electrical fittings, pick up and work with Urban Company. They'll send you across someone who will come, and that person will be in PPE. They will come and sanitize the surroundings, absolutely safe. They will perform the repairs, and they will charge you exactly what is in the menu. So to me, it was a big shift, because I used to deal with people who will come in the morning and say, "Aranal vela sir, 600 kodunga," and I will call him to probably change something in my door. That is all. $600 he will come, he will charge me in door. These guys, if it is a job where I have to change the lock in a door, they will tell me it's 200 rupees. I know what I am getting into. I know who is going to come. I know what that person's rating is. Is this person trustworthy? There is feedback. I see their picture. And then, of course, I know when that person will come. That person will call, confirm, and come. It was nice. Until then, if I were to be honest, till 2020, I never trusted these guys to come into my homes. I said, okay, people use them for cleaning or whatever, but I will not. But now, I don't go anywhere else. And then we move to the two other guys who are essentially all set to take over this country. Grocery shopping, which used to be a monthly affair, where when my son was small, he used to enjoy coming with us to the grocery store, running up and down the aisles, picking up whatever and doing what it is. We haven't gone to a grocery store for the past 4 years. We do not go to the grocery store. My stuff comes at home from either Jio or Amazon Pantry. And that too, I sit there, I have 2 windows open, I compare which is the lowest price. After it reaches my home, and then I order. And of course, the more I spend on them, they give me some more money, which I can use the next time I want to go buy and whatnot. Grocery shopping is such a breeze. And I can assure you that I sit there in Chennai and I order rice from Thrissur. And I get it delivered. Yeah, of course, some brands charge me some money, but it's still worth. If I want, well, we prefer to eat matta rice, so that has to come from here, and coconut oil. Both I order from Thrissur and I get it. Another thing which we identified during the whole COVID period, in spite of the fact that my wife is a doctor, she's an ophthalmologist, and then so their business was running. I mean, they never shut down during COVID. And she ended up after one extremely strenuous week with a very bad shoulder. So she couldn't raise her arm and whatnot. We didn't want to go into a hospital because it was that phase when things were very bad and you didn't want to. We found out that Apollo has an app where you can choose your doctor. The doctor would come on video call with you, look at your symptoms, ask you to do whatever they're supposed to do, and then will tell you, okay, this is the advice, and if they want us to do some tests, they'll tell you what else to do. And if they want you to do a blood test, Apollo sends someone to come home, collect the sample, go back, and it all comes back into the app, goes to the doctor. You do one consultation, the follow-up consultation on the app is free. Medical care, again, unless you really have to go somewhere where you're in pain or it's an emergency. Elective, selective care is on the phone now. The best thing, once when we tried to reach out to the doctor, he was on his day off, he was at a cinema, he's still connected. It is not that, back in the day when I used to get my spectacles here at Shankaraya Road, I'll go there at 4 and I'll wait there till 7. That's when, of course, he was a busy man, of course. Here, I know when it is happening, the doctor knows when it is happening, and it happened. And then there was a follow-up. Life is good. And then, we opened up slowly, things started moving, and then we needed to get something from the office because we needed to sign papers and all that. But you didn't want to go, right? It was again, you need to pull out a pass and whatnot. That's when I discovered these guys called Dunzo. Now Dunzo, to be very honest, when I was in school, we had a small agency in Thrissur who did this job. Back then, he would pay my electricity bill for me, for my father. He will book train tickets. And of course, he knew the right kind of people back then, so he would get us train tickets. And he will pay the telephone bill, the water bill, the taxes and whatnot. Dunzo does exactly that. The only difference is you could do it from anywhere, and they'll do pretty much anything. They will deliver, they will pay, they will pick up. They also do restaurant delivery now. It's a different scenario. So with Dunzo, you also don't have to go. So people send laptops. So when my department has to send a new joinee a laptop, we Dunzo it to them. So this guy will come on a bike, take the laptop, put it in his bag. There is an OTP and whatever it is, so that the receiver knows what's coming, and then it gets delivered. Again, COVID time is when the cook in me came alive. We really don't have anything to do, so you go browse YouTube and try to figure out to do something. So we wanted to cook some massive stuff. Where do you get meat from? Fipola and Licious are two absolutely wonderful stuff where they give you whatever you want on the meat front. So about 6 or 7 months, at the end of which my family told me, please stop this. Please stop, we can't eat. But again, there my life was again in my phone. I look at recipes, I look at fish, meat, whatever it is. And those 12 months, 13 months period, of course, that is when I grew my hair this long. Otherwise, I'm losing hair, it doesn't grow. But those days when I had to do a haircut or a shave or whatever it is, the same urban company has that service also. So they'll come home, Your home, back in the days when my grandfather's grandfather was there, we have stories of people coming home, barbers coming home and doing it. It's back to those days. You again will have a rated service person who will come home, perform the service, you can choose what you want, and they will do it perfectly well. They will lay out a sheet, put a chair in the middle, they will sit you down, they will put stuff around you, and he's completely masked and whatnot. At the end of which, the best thing, they will clean the room and go. It's not that they finish the job, they wash their hands and leave. They will clean the room and they will leave. And well, now Chennai is an open place. We don't even wear masks. I wear masks, but lots of people don't wear masks in Chennai. But I still get them home to do what I need monthly. I don't step into a salon anymore. So in the last 1 year, my life has changed completely. My son is a digital human being, I would say that, because he was born in 2000, so he's a digi man or whatever you want to call him. I am at least someone who's a convert. Right? So today, my phone, I don't talk on this. This is where my life is. And you might be thinking, why is he telling this story, right? The story I'm telling you is because these guys are all doing so well because their supply chains are just amazing. And what is that supply chain that I keep talking to you about? On the left is 1994, when I started work. When I came out of Thrissur Engineering College, Francis and I, he went abroad, of course. I stayed in India. Yeah. So, back then, the supply chain was physical. We spoke about moving goods. We spoke about taking things, putting it on a truck, putting it into a warehouse, taking it to a retailer, and selling it to someone. It was a physical supply chain. And like physical supply chains, it was designed with the constraints of space, constraints of cost of transportation, constraints of volume of manufacturing, and everything else. And of course, that was probably also the age, like Mr. Henry Ford famously said, the consumer can have any color as long as it is black. So that's when we had a scenario where the manufacturers and the people doing commerce drove consumption. They decided what you and me will buy, and we basically bought it because that was the only thing that was available. You walked into a store and said, okay, give me 4 ounces. And he'll give you Colgate and he'll walk away. You didn't have 4 ounces. What do you do? That was that stage back then. Thank you. 4 ounces. That's okay. Thank you, Anna. So when did this move from left to right? I don't know. I think it was a slow transition. But today, the supply chain is about data. The supply chain is not about moving goods. Moving goods will happen. The supply chain is about data. It is a digital, data-driven supply chain. And if you go back to my COVID experience and then try to lay it, what is different is the fact that that digital supply chain provided me experience. The experience of no hassles when I got my door repaired, no hassles when I got my hair cut, a wonderfully packed, freshly cut, clean slice of meat when I wanted to buy meat, and stuff that came to me when they committed, they would send it to me in decently packed, very well packed goods when I buy grocery. So these guys, those who we saw are setting fire to stock markets today. Some are digging big holes also, but then that's a different story. Right? They own the experience we have today. And it is based on that experience that they're saying, listen, I give you this experience because I come directly to you. It is direct to the consumer. There is nobody sitting in the middle. They know you very well. Each of those apps that I use understand what Boby is, what Boby uses, at what time of the day will he step into the app, make an order. And they also know that at that point in time, if they send me a notification with a discount, I will buy. Right? Of course, data privacy is stuff that we keep talking about, but when you're working on somebody's app, it's information that they own and they can do whatever they want with it. So they might not know me as an individual and connect me to my Aadhaar card, but they know that this individual, this profile of person is doing that. And hey presto, I get stock recommendations from Paytm, I get salon recommendations from Urban Company, all at a given point in time, so they know me very well. Know your consumer, know your customer. It is not that you give your Aadhaar card, PAN card and everything and your KYC is done. That's what it used to be. Now they know you. They know what time you open your app, what time you make a transaction, what is your value. This is where I can tell you that the Tata Group has started a very interesting concept in Bombay. So you have Zomato, we spoke about Zomato where they give you stuff from restaurants and all that, right? Now Tata decided that they don't want to play in the space where a lot of people are there. It's very crowded. It's a red ocean, if I may. So now they deliver gourmet meals in Bombay where your average billing value is 3,000 rupees only and above. For a plate of whatever you order, so it comes from the best of the places, the best chefs or whatever. So there is segmentation happening in the space now. So if you want generic stuff, okay, go to Zomato. If you want gourmet meals, go there. If you want meals which are made with purely natural products, there's somebody else who's going to come along. So this whole bouquet that today is just one is now getting segmented. Data is being used, analyzed, worked through, and which is like, where people like me come in, because we, of course, now are the ones who work with analytics and data. That's what's happening. The third most important thing that has happened is, today you can sit at home and get delivered one battery. There was a time when you have to say that, well, you have to buy 10 of them, or you have to buy 10 kilos of this. Now one battery will come to you. No problems. And in cities like Chennai, we get same day delivery also. If something's not working in the morning, jump onto the app, make an order, by afternoon it's with you. You're good. Fractional deliveries happened. So things are no more driven by economies of scale from packaging, economies of scale from manufacturing. Nobody cares. How fractional are you able to deliver? What do you want? What does my consumer want? What is the experience we're going to give that person? The most important point is the closed loop thing that most of these guys now have a closed loop supply chain in place. Now what is a closed loop supply chain? Now when you walk into an ATM and find that the ATM is not working, of course, now it's not so much, but it was like an education for me when I found out how that worked. We have an SLA, a service level agreement of 4 hours to set an ATM right. So if an ATM is not working, we get to know about it because the bank knows, the bank will let us know through, of course, the agency, the company that owns the ATMs. And from there the ticker starts for us. So the first job is who used to be supply chain partners for automobile companies, and we used to move crankshafts and engines and whatnot. Now what we do is our supply chain, the first thing is we send an engineer there who will go to the ATM, open it, try to see what is wrong, is the link working, is the machine working, whatever. Then they find out that there is a part that is broken. So a broken part now has to be replaced. So this engineer places an order, and in the next 45 minutes from one of our warehouses which is nearby, we have to deliver a part to the engineer at the ATM so that that person can repair the ATM. Now in large cities like Bombay, Delhi, etc., this engineer went to the ATM, placed an order, moved on to the next ATM or whatever. So this guy goes there and waits. And then the engineer finds him. There's also a window of 40 minutes till such time as he has to wait. If in 45 minutes the engineer doesn't come back, he is free to leave with the part. Otherwise, he will deliver the good part, take the defective part back, bring it back into the warehouse, and the loop is closed. So that is a whole closed loop supply chain which companies are taking over and doing now, where it is not just about the parts, it is about people, it is about service, it is about parts, moving, storing, everything. In the end, as a consumer, you walk into a movie, you found an ATM was not working, you finish the cinema, step out of it, and the ATM is up and running, all well. That again is how these people have used data, the concept of working together, multiple companies integrating to create that digital supply chain, which in the end makes sure that somebody who needs money at whatever time of the day gets their money. So so that's exactly from a product-centric, volume, economies of scale-centric approach to the concept of what is a supply chain. Today, our supply chain is about providing the experience. Like Tata's, there was an ad way back when we were in college. There was a Tata footage of 30-second ad that ran, and then in the end they say, we also make steel. So, to be honest, what does Nykaa make? Nothing. What does Zomato make? Nothing. What does Paytm make? Nothing. None of these guys make anything. They ensure that you trust them for whatever you want, and they bring the stuff that there is to you. Now, I was working with one of these companies, again, when they came to us for some support on their supply chain. And they are also in the space of home repairs. Very interesting. They are now getting into selling spares. So the repairman is already theirs. Now they are now saying that we will now start owning the spares, and if you want, a plumber comes to your place and wants to replace a tap, they will sell the tap to you. And then what will happen is they will in turn source it from wherever it is and store it with them. So they are integrating backwards, creating capabilities on one front, creating products and using them on the other side. And very soon, the entire ecosystem that we have is going to completely change, which I will talk about in the last slide. Okay, this is one slide which I put because, of course, I'm a techie and I like to speak tech, right? What's happening is there's so much of data that's coming along, and all of this data, and I'll try to make it a little less tech. Here, this new supply chain is powered on the fact that there is something known as a computer that can think, artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence could be as simple as a notification that comes to you. It could be as simple as the phone giving you an ad based on a conversation you had 2 days ago. You will see that. You had a conversation, you open Facebook and there's an ad staring at you about the same thing. Seems weird, you think people are listening, but actually not. The words you said are being heard by the mic, are being processed by an artificial intelligence engine, and they do something with it. So what's happening is this entire world, right? I mean, everything is anonymous, data comes, but there are computers and large computer pools sitting and analyzing this data to evolve patterns, to evolve what is happening, and thereby to provide you the kind of service. They will be able to predict when something might go wrong. They will be able to predict what it takes to set it right, and they will also be able to predict who should get where at what point in time to make these things happen. So that is the backbone of the digital supply chain, and this is what people like me are trying to build for our companies. Amazon has done a wonderful job of this. They've built it. So much so that in the US, you can order at 8 in the morning and by 8:30 you could get your dress with which you can go to work. That's what people tell me, I don't know, but that's what I hear. So this is the background. Where we're going in the future is in the concept of something known as smart contracts. Now the concept of smart contract is every device will start talking to each other. So think of a scenario that the fridge we have at our homes, we store vegetables there. It knows that it needs a kilogram of tomatoes. If the tomato in the fridge falls below half a kilo, the fridge will automatically place an order. Right? It will place an order via the Amazon app that you have at your home. I don't know how many of you will have an Alexa.
Irrespective of the price, is it?
Yes. Think about it.
The price may go up.
Yeah, it will still place because you need to know.
You don't know about it.
Correct.
The long run, you will also look up the prices.
It could also look up the prices. And again, very valid point, because the Reliance story will tell you how they're trying to figure out the whole price angle also. Of course, we know prices are controlled from Nagpur from a lot of our vegetables, but still, right?
Who says? The farmers do not have any say in that.
Correct. So this order will go, and then the concept is there are autonomous vehicles on the roads, which in India we have yet to see, but you have Tesla cars that run by themselves in the US. So my boss was telling me that he went home to meet his son in the US. They were driving back from the airport, and the son was driving the car for some time. They went onto the highway. Suddenly his son left the car, turned around, started looking at his father and talking, and he was like, what is that? No problem, the car will drive. And he narrated this incident as it happened to him. So I think it's reality. Autonomous vehicles are real, right? But yeah, will it happen in India? I don't know. I can't drive being a human in Indian roads and get anywhere on time, but we'll still figure out maybe. So yes, India is good. So imagine the fridge ordering onto an autonomous vehicle, who will then decide to go to wherever they want to pick this up, where a robot will come and deliver it and come it back to fridge. I know it's Keefy territory right now. As we speak, it seems a little weird. Is this guy, what is this talking about, right? I don't know. My son is going to live in this world. I'm sure about it. I don't know if I would see it in the next 20, 30 years, but my son definitely will live in this world. In the US, you have drones delivering stuff onto your balcony. They'll just fly in and deliver stuff. And in India, we already have drone flight paths. We can't do that in Chennai because we have large cutouts. Right? But the drone flight paths are still being mapped out in India. You have roads mapped out, you have drone flight paths mapped out. The world's changing. And this is exactly what is happening there. Now I'm happy to sit down with any of you at a later point in time and talk about this in detail and not bore you right now, but please understand it's changing. All those computer wired networks, the submarine cables, everything, all this data is coming together to provide us tomatoes. How are you doing on time? No, not more than that, definitely. Please stop me. I tend to get carried away when I speak over these things. Yeah, as we sit in this country and look at it, of course, all these small companies are coming, they're doing stuff, they're revolutionizing the way we do business. They're taking over our wallets, they're taking over our consciousness, everything. How can you let the Tatas and the Reliance be far away? They want a piece of the pie. And this is what exactly they're doing, JioMart, I don't know if it's very prevalent here in Thrissur yet. So the whole Jio story, if you look at what Reliance is doing, when I started following this company, Reliance of course used to make petrochemicals and all that. They wanted the whole backward forward integration. They always wanted to own the entire end-to-end piece, right? All the way till they made the Vimal saris, till they got the crude oil. So that was the whole supply chain that they wanted. And then, early 90s, early 2000s, when the telecom revolution came into this country, if you remember, Reliance invested in laying fiber cables across the country. They cut every road, lay the cables, and in my apartment, they ran the cables up to my door with a junction box. They invested that money to make it happen. And for some reason, whatever that be, they came up with the Reliance phone also, which was a revolutionary thing, priced low. Back then, I'm talking the first wave of the cellular thing. They came with that. They wanted a piece of that pie back then. They figured out that digital and data is going to be the future, and thereby they said that first thing, I'm going to run wires across the country. I'm going to get a phone in everybody's pocket. They did that. But for some reason that entire dream came apart, and then we went into all of this. Now they're back. And they're back for real. So Reliance is the only company in India which has a pure 4G network. Their network is only 4G. The others came from 2G, 3G, and they have 4G. They've invested in copper, I don't know what not. Reliance is a national fiber network that is only 4G. With that, and the phone they're going to give you, which is the Reliance Google phone that's going to come, the idea is they just want to come in and own entertainment, your commerce, your education, and everything else that comes around it. Not only that, and this is where the Reliance retail story plugs in. Reliance retail started off with the concept of, I will have a retail store that is as good as a small store in my neighborhood. Again, they did all that, it didn't really work out. They learned from it. JioMart makes every small grocery store next to your home a digital store. That is their promise. So they have a platform in which every local store will get enrolled, and then Reliance, that app, will give them orders. So you place an order on the app, that order will get routed to the nearest grocery store. Who will supply to you? So the grocery store stays in business, Reliance stays in business, we get what we want quickly, everybody is happy. The prices again are controlled by Reliance because they control the procurement. The supply is controlled by Reliance. So tomorrow, with the entire corporate farming angle that's coming out in this country, these large corporations will own huge tracts of farmland from where produce will come. They will ship to all these centers and delivery will happen to you. Big dreams. And slowly they're laying each pieces, and third time lucky, hopefully, I don't know, but we'll see how it works out. So that's the whole concept of Jio. And they're doing the exact same thing on the entertainment front also. They're giving you digital content. You go into JioSaavn, they bought out music, they bought out all sorts of movies. They are going to be India's answer to Amazon, who's doing exactly the same thing in the US, and they want to do it globally. That's the chart on top. The only area where Reliance is having a trouble is that they don't understand Thrissur, for example. Thrissur, right? So, just to give you an example, a couple of weeks ago on my way back home from, I was here and I was traveling back, we had a bit of an accident en route, and then 3 days ago I went and took possession of my car from the police station. Then we called up Jeep, and they have a towing service, great service and all that. So I called them up. And the call went to some place in North India. So I told them the place is Virupuram. That's a town in Tamil Nadu, which is 160 kilometers from Chennai. But this guy standing there, he doesn't basically understand where Virupuram is. He's looked it up in a map and figured out my accent and decided to tow my car to Madurai. And then I call him saying, what are you saying, Madurai? No sir, this place is near Madurai. I said, no, sorry. And then I had to tell him and then send him my location, and then he figured out. So that is exactly what is Reliance's problem. Reliance doesn't understand Mundayoor today. Right? Peramangalam, no way. So that is where you see this guy at the bottom, Udaan, is coming in. Okay, now Udaan is, we don't know Udaan. We haven't seen Udaan. We haven't heard of Udaan. But Udaan is the one that is powering the e-commerce and digital dreams of a lot of tier 2, tier 3 towns in India. This is where they have trucks that understand this country. They have a platform that has every taluk mapped out. They provide service of consolidating, buying produce, taking it to whoever you want for any small retailer in any part of the country. So, Udaan is structuring the unstructured for you. They are giving a map, an address to every small little taluk across the country. They're doing very well. And Reliance in turn is trying to do an Udaan by recruiting people from Udaan. I don't know how successful that's going to be, but that's what they're trying to do. While this is happening on one side, I speak to you today, December 2021. A year later, let's see what impact Jio will have in all your lives. Right? They already have bought out the Future group. So their apparel business is very strong, their grocery business is very strong, they have retail presence everywhere across the country, they have digital presence across the country. It's a story worth watching. While that is happening, Mr. Chandrasekharan sitting in Bombay at the Tatas is slowly bringing the Tata business together. They're doing two things. One, they're getting the whole supply chain on the Tata app. Again, if you look at it, the Tata retail story is coming together, the Tata financial play is coming together, and as I said, they're getting into expensive stuff where they want to be in the premium space. So while Reliance is looking at the India that is large and spread, Tata is probably looking at the premium India, where they're going in for value as against the volumes that Reliance has. Of course, it's an extremely different play that Reliance has and what Tata will have. Both of these are worth watching. Absolutely worth watching. And all of this, the reason why most of these guys are powerful, in my opinion, apart from whatever we spoke about so far, is the fact that India probably has among the most robust payment interfaces that you can think about in the world. The UPI, the payments interface that we have is absolutely safe, and it's so prevalent that, it's stuff of dreams that you can think through. But that's a wonderful case of a concept that is taken to execution and put through across the country. And all of this will succeed if at all it does based on that. And the payment interface has been so successful that we could stand up and tell MasterCard to take a hike. We don't want to pay 2.5% of every transaction. UPI is free. Money I pay from my bank to you, why should I pay somebody sitting in the middle 2.5%? We disallowed MasterCard from issuing cards in this country for a long time. That's the power we have. So India is at the threshold of some serious revolutions that you see going forward. All of that based on data, based on the fact that people like us want experience more now, and we really have gone a bit lazy. We don't want to walk and stay in a queue and do whatever that is, of course, and I understand that. And the fact that we have a very robust payments interface that powers all of this, which is not dependent on credit cards, debit cards, which could then get phished, and you don't trust these things. Nothing. It's safe, trustworthy, and your bank account nobody knows. There's just one ID that goes around. Nobody can do anything with that. So that's what I see is the future of the whole supply chain concept. So you would have seen that, we didn't discuss about supply chains of moving material, cars and whatnot. It's about the supply of data, information, and how we manage that entire process. Watch the space. Please watch your habits on the digital space. Write it down. You will be surprised at the amount of digital coverage you will have individually. Right? Starting with how many of you reach out for a newspaper or WhatsApp first thing in the morning? I would want to stop it at that and say thank you for your time and interest.
Thank you. We are running short of time. We will be having a short interaction. We have an open floor.
Thank you very much, sir. Delightful.
Sir, it's very interesting, very lucidly explained. In my welcome address, I was referring, I don't know anything about supply chain. Now I understand that without my knowledge, I am an inevitable part and parcel of the supply chain. That is wonderful. And both speeches today is regarding the revolution which is happening in the day-to-day life. So thank you very much, sir. Now the questions.
Two queries that has come on.
Thank you very much for your very informative speech at Scores. So one thing I would like to find out, you are saying incredible India. Yes, India is incredible. But has it not happened incredible Bangladesh, incredible Indonesia, incredible Malaysia? Is it in India alone this incredibility has happened?
Well, I don't think India is alone in this. Of course, one more question is there. This revolution is happening across the world. But whatever little I have seen when I traveled in a couple of places is that It is in places like India, in Africa, that you see that a lot of this changes happened so fast. The matured economies are taking their time. Probably it's because of compliance or the fact that they have to go through processes and whatnot. But countries like India, especially Africa, etc., we are changing very fast. Which probably is the speed with which we say that, okay, it's incredible. But the change is coming.
Yes. The second thing is, you are talking about this supply system. But I find most of the things have gone to the manufacturing side, or supplies, hotels giving the food and all that. See, we have not gone for backwards, where the peasants or the farmers are integrated into the system. And today, the most disadvantaged group of people are the farmers. Yes. So what is the solution? Whether anything is coming? Again, you were, towards the end of the speech, were saying about corporatization of the farming, and that is going to be devastating. Yes. If it happens.
Yes.
It has to be with the farmers. The land has to be with the farmers, not with the corporates.
As much as I agree with you very much, sir, and call me a romantic, but I think that's the way it should be, that the land has to be owned by the farmer has to get their bread and whatnot. But I can tell you that without volumes, farming, Francis said about my experience in farming, I can tell you that when I tried to make some ginger to sell into Chennai, by the time I made it, I took it and sold it, I didn't get enough money to cover for my seeds. And if that is what I faced, a normal farmer is going to struggle even more. So we have to fix that, and there is no doubt it has to be fixed. India cannot be like America, where you have 500-acre farms which are feeding artificially whatever genetically modified stuff. I'd prefer my normal good stuff that I get, and I hope that day comes. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Two queries that we have received online is one from Santosh. Buy local while making them locally seems to be a mantra standing against global supply chain. Now, economic and environmental point of view, that makes sense also. What's your take on it?
So, the whole concept of what I spoke about is that the global supply chains have broken down. The supply chains are now local, and with digital, the local supply chains can have more power coming to them. So technically he's right, and the supply chains will aid local procurement, local produce, local consumption as we move forward. That's where we are going to. I don't see global supply chains unless you have some stuff like aeroplanes and others being such a big player probably 10 years down the line.
One more question. It's the last question that from Colonel Pratap. As an alumnus of college GEC, I take a pleasure in interacting. Okay, the Dabawalas of Mumbai is an example of very efficient supply chain management before the digital age.
Yes.
I like to know from you whether they also have shifted to digital techniques. If yes, any innovation they have made.
I cannot say that for a fact that they have gone digital. Probably they may use mobile phones today, but their numbering system and their entire delivery methodology will still be the way they are at us. And I hope they don't change it. Because Bombay guys don't like to get, something else instead of their usual poha or whatever that they have known. And I hope they keep to it. Because, see, one thing I've always believed in is, please don't try to fix it if it's not broken. And that's something which works at Six Sigma levels. It has been validated, tested, proven that your dabba will reach at 11:30 and it will reach home by 4. Why try to fix it? So one more thing about digitalization that is very important is we also can't just do that rampantly. In the end it's about the human in the chain. Where is that human and what is that human value? Like I spoke about the urban company. The person who comes to you for service, in the end is the person who has to make the most out of that entire supply chain. And we should not forget that at any point in time. Yes, please.
Why do you think our UPI is so robust? We have only launched it recently compared to what maybe all the developed countries have been doing for so long. Or what makes it so robust?
Okay, I'll have to take a step back. In India, today the mobile networks are very
prevalent, common, and we all trust the mobile networks. And we had telephones, and then suddenly we had mobile phones one day. We didn't go through the broadband network phase. We all had some broadband, we all had VSNL, dial-up connections and all that, but it was not all over the place. So India always has a habit of jumping a life cycle. We went from phones, physical phones, to suddenly to mobile phones. No broadband in between. Likewise, the advantage we had, or probably it was a disadvantage, is that we didn't have a very robust payment system across the country like credit cards, which is prevalent in the Western world. Credit card, without a credit card in a Western world, you can't survive. In India, we had a cash economy. And suddenly for us to go digital was so much more easier, and a layer of security, etc., is something which every country understands. But the fact that we were able to do it is because probably, we didn't have people on it. So people could jump onto it because they saw value straight away. And technically it's an extremely robust, safe architecture, which is something that I know of. So this is my point of view. I can't be an expert in this, but this is just my point of view, sir.
Thank you for your interesting perspectives. I have one query on the evolving system in the data-based supply chain systems that are evolving. On one side, we have legacy players, the big players like Reliance and Tata's, and maybe somebody like an Asian Paints who had a supercomputer in the 60s itself. And the other side, you have a lot of disruptors that are coming up. So how do you see the tussle going forward? Like in the US, we have somebody like Tesla, who is a total outsider having a good market share or maybe a good traction. Do you see the same thing happen in India? Like in the case of Ola, in the case of electric two-wheelers, or maybe in other sectors? So, or will the big get even bigger?
It's a yes and no, in my opinion. That's a weird way of putting it. But the thing is, the innovation has to come from startups. Large companies are not structured for innovation. You can't sit in a large company and think about a new idea and get it out onto the road. You can't sit in a large company and say, tomorrow I'm going to start a salon service, and somebody will go to somebody's place and there'll be 15 people who sit in a room and tell you, no, it's not going to work, so don't do it. But these guys went ahead and did it, and they did this in no time at all. So of course the startups will be there, they will come up with innovation, but the big guys will catch up. Because if you look at it, Ratan Tata himself is investing in a lot of these companies. I mean, you look around, the major investors, and once these companies acquire a size, they get bought out by these people. 1MG was bought out, Tanishq bought out Carrot Lane. Reliance is buying companies as if they're going out of business. Every day they buy a company. Nobody talks about it because it's so boring now. So, the end game for any entrepreneur is either to go public or to sell off. Like I sold off, I'm saying. Yeah. So, you either go public, in which case, yeah, it's good, or you want to get acquired by a biggie. At some point, all of this would go into the large ocean. Those are these biggies. And that is, sadly, the scenario where you will go back to being commercial and then the cycle will all over start. But good thing is we are in the midst of that shift. That's all I can say.
As you said, we'll watch out for that.
Yes, we should.
We are closing out the queries. Now moving on to the next agenda. We have induction of the new members of TMA. I will be calling out the names. I request CA Job Vice President TMA to formally induct them. Mr. Damodar Menon, he is an independent consultant in management. Please, sir. Captain S.P. Sridharan, Director, College of Ship Technology. Workies James Chiran, Managing Partner, Chiran Auto Agencies, Thrissur. Next, we have on the agenda release of Volume 1 of TMA Management Voice. I request our Chief Guest, Sri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, to officially release the same. I request our editor, Mr. Ranjanes, to hand over the magazine to our Chief Guest.
This is the first issue of Volume 9. So we will be delighted. I hope it is not very tightly packed. Thank you very much, sir. This is a new issue done in the new style. We have a new logo, we have new vision, mission, etc. This is a completely new way in which we've done this magazine. We do look forward to it.
Satyanarayana, do you receive any management magazines in your library in Arunachal?
No. As such,
see, we will donate this monthly. Whenever it is issued, it will be sent to you. Give the address.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now we are moving on to the pleasantries. Now let me invite CA Job Vice President to present the Chief Guest, Sri Satyanarayana Mundayoor, a memento as a token of love and respect. Sir.
Thank you so much. Great pleasure and honor. Thank you so much.
Now let me invite CA Job to present the guest of honor, Mr. Boby Mohan, a memento as a token of love and respect. Now let me invite Engineer Francis George, Honorable Secretary, to propose the vote of thanks.
Okay, it's pretty late. I'll make it quick. Dignitaries on the dais, off the dais. It's a pleasure once again to propose a vote of thanks. Let me start with the President of the function, CA Geo Job, the Vice President of TMA, for presiding over the function. Next, I would like to go to the guests straight away. I think it was scintillating evening. It's not very often that we have two different speakers on the same day. We usually have one speaker. We had two speakers today and two excellent speakers. I'm sure you all agree with this, right? It was marvelous, and what I find, both were very good storytellers, extremely good storytellers. There's one person, Satyanarayana sir, who talked about everything that requires a human touch, upliftment of the people in Arunachal, and educating the people there. It requires a human touch. And Boby talked about something that doesn't require a human touch at all. Getting rid of the human touch, just touch the phone and get things done. So yeah, two extremely diverse topics. It was a wonderful evening, a memorable one for TMA, I guess. And next, I want to quickly go through the ritualistic part of it. I want to thank all the office bearers and the past presidents of TMA, everyone who has come here as the audience, all the students. I want to thank PK Vijaykumar sir for getting the chief guest of the day, Satyanarayana sir, and the members of the press also for covering this event. I'm sure you would do justice to the event. And that's it. Have a good night. Thank you.
Before handing over the proceedings to CA Job for the official adjournment, I have a small announcement that we are having some books written by Satyanarayana sir. Each cost rupees 80, and the proceeds of the same will be utilized for his social cost. It's available at the desk. Handing over the proceedings to
the monthly guest lecture is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much. So the MC members may kindly come forward. So we need to have a group photo.